Assalamu alaikum guys and welcome back to another video. It's Ibrahim Muslim and today I'm back with another video on Hackintosh. So this is the second video on the series of videos I'm gonna make on Clover Configurator. So Clover Configurator is one of the best software you can find to build a Hackintosh for your Mac OS system. So this software is basically everything for a Hackintosh. And in the previous video I discussed about the basic startup and how to get into Clover Configurator and what is Clover Configurator, where you can download it from, how you can install it, how you can initialize it, and what are these sections and these tools, what they basically do. So in my last video I explained almost all of the basic things about the Clover Configurator and Clover Bootloader. So if you have any questions, query related to that, you can go back to that video. The link to that video is down in the description. You can check it from there. I will highly recommend you that you watch that video before you start to watch this video. Now in this video we're gonna talk about the sections and tools more in detail. So let's start with the basic tool, the number one tool. The mount EFI tool is very important, and from here you will basically mount the EFI partition of your USB installer drive and also the EFI partition of your main Hackintosh boot up drive. So assuming that I am right now on a Mac OS system or a Macintosh instead of a Hackintosh, and we're gonna prepare a Hackintosh drive, we're gonna basically prepare how to boot the Mac OS onto a Windows PC. So what are the basic steps you're gonna do? So the number one step is, after installing the Mac OS X on a USB drive like this is an install Mac OS USB drive. So this is the basic installer which is required to boot Macintosh or Mac OS on a Mac system. It can be a MacBook, Mac Pro, iMac Pro, anything. So this is what you require to boot into that. But if you're going to boot into a Hackintosh, the story is kind of different. So you need a EFI folder in which there should be a Clover bootloader present, which will basically then enable your USB installer to work on a PC instead of a Mac, and you will be able to boot the Hackintosh in it. So the number one step here is mount the EFI partition. So you will enter your password, and right now you will notice that I have mounted the EFI partition of the USB installer, and everything I will do will be done on the USB installer's EFI. So this is the installer EFI, this is the USB itself, and in both of these my Mac OS is installed. Right now if I open the EFI, it has the EFI in it, Clover bootloader in it, because I was already using this USB drive. So what I will do is I will empty that. This is how your USB EFI will look. So after this step, I have already explained this step in my previous video, but just for more clarified point of view, we will do that again. You'll go into install and update Clover, and then from here save to desktop. Here you will click check, and the Clover configurator make the task quite easier. It will check the latest Clover bootloader available online, which is 99, and we will click update. So what we'll do is it will download the Clover bootloader, and then we'll be able to install the Clover bootloader onto our EFI drive of the USB. So this is really confusing, and lots of people have issues. They tend to install the Mac OS, everything works, but they can't boot from the system. They have to use the USB drive. So this is the trick, how you will basically get rid of the USB drive, and what you have to do, and what is the role of the USB drive, and how the EFI and everything basically works. So once the Clover bootloader is downloaded, we'll say continue. We'll enter our password. This is required on Catalina basically. Okay, we're gonna read on it because there was a permission issue. We will enter the password again. So I fixed the error, and basically it was due to the system integrity problem. So there is an option in Mac OS from the latest one, and if you go here you will find out this. Apple started to have system integrity protection from, I think, Sierra or High Sierra after their APFS file system. So this is very important to protect the macOS from hackers and all the errors and malwares and bugs and stuff. So my system integrity was turned on, and due to that I was not able to use Clover Configurator because it basically mounts the system EFI partition, and Apple does not allow the users or third-party software developers to do so. So what I did was I mounted my EFI like I always do, and then I went in here in RT variables. In RT variables, I changed the CSR active config to 03 instead of 00, and which removed my system integrity, and now I'm able to install the Clover Configurator. So once you are able to do so, what you have to do, you have to go to change install location. You have to select the location of your USB drive, and then you click continue, then you customize, and here you have to choose Clover for UEFI bootloader only, and it will do install almost all the main required softwares except the memory fixed drivers. So if you're using Z390 or Z370, then you have to use an other OS X optio fix, which is OS X optio fix DRV2-2000. So but if you're not using that one, then you can use the optio fix or the optio fix 3. Both of these will work. So in my case, I'm going to use the optio fix 2001. So we'll leave this, and if you're on a laptop, you can probably boot with OS X optio fix 3 and optio fix 1. So then you have to click install RC script on target volume, and that's all. Zoom in, I forgot to zoom in, and we'll say continue. So we'll add our password. So if we zoom out, we will see that a new folder will be created here with Clover drivers in it. So the EFI folder popped up, and we're done with our install. So once our install is done, then we can go into home here, and then we can mount our first config.plst, which came out of the Clover Configurator. So it's the original one, and there is no changes that I have made. So it's the one Clover developers built. So and in here you can leave this as it is. It fixes a lot of stuff. Then I would prefer you to untick these fixes. They can cause system not to boot properly, especially this fix HTA, and you can basically untick all of these, and then you can click auto merge and patch APIC. You can also use these one help system to boot properly, and you can use these and these ACPI portion. This is how you basically edit your first config. Once you get a stable boot, you can also use these two to make system go to sleep and wake up from sleep quite better if you use these. Okay, so this is here, and if you're going to use Intel, so it's very important that rename GFX 0 to iGPU, and before that you add the PEGP to GFX. So you basically move it up, and you have to place it above this one, because first the PEGP is converted to GFXO, and then the GFXO to iGPU. So these are important. You also have to use ACI and HCI to fix your USB pass fixes if you're going to use SSTT or USB inject all. So these are important as well. Here are some other fixes you can apply, and there's a default one added already. Then in the boot section, so this is the main section which will basically operate Clover GUI or Clover graphics interface right after the system boots up. So it's really important to understand how this works, and this can be used to fix a lot of different issues you face in making the Clover boot. So the first step is, if you go to boot, if you're installing the Hackintosh and you haven't installed it already, then you have to use -v, which is verbose, which will basically show everything what goes to the Mac OS X, what Mac OS is up to, which drivers are loaded while it's booting into the Mac OS X. Okay, so this is very important. This will basically display all the lines that go through the screen like a matrix. Then you have to use dark wake is equals to 0. This is for the sleep fix. Then you have to use .0. This is very important. Without this system where weaken it crashes while your system is booted up, like everything is working well and suddenly it crashes. And if your laptop or your desktop have NVIDIA graphics card and you don't want to use it, and you want to use Intel graphics, then you have to use nv underscore disable is equals to 1. Otherwise the NVIDIA graphics card will keep popping in and they will not let you boot into macOS X properly. Then you can use CPU as is equals to 1 if you are getting IO screen lock issues. And if you're going to boot into your Hackintosh with Core i7 or Core i9 or Core 5 from 6, 7, 8 generation and you're getting Intel issues, you can first disable the Intel from the BIOS, or you can also disable Intel graphics with using this disable GFX firmware. And you can also use the Nihilum error disable, and there are all other fixes which you can use with other kext to get more informative debug and a more clear understanding. I will teach you about all of these in the further videos. All of these are a complete topic of their own and they will probably take a lot of time if I start explaining them right now. Then in this section you have to select the boot default volume. So this is the area from where you can automatically tell Clover which hard drive to boot right after it loads itself. So you don't have to go to the OS X drive and press enter every time to boot, and you don't waste a lot of time in doing so. So this will automate the system. Like all you need to do after the complete Hackintosh would be pressing the power button and the system will automatically boot into the Mac OS, or you can set the main drive to boot into Windows as well. So it's free on you. So let's make it go up. Right now you can see I have these drives, and my main drive in which my Mac OS Catalina 10.15.1 is installed is the OS X, the OS 10. Okay, so what you have to do is you have to write O capital and S, then a space, and then X. This is the name of my drive. And in the default loader you have to write boot.efi. Don't write capital boot and don't write boot64 because that will terminate, or that will stop the automatic loading process. This is the timeout. So this timeout is basically how long the Clover will wait before it loads to the Mac OS X. If you have completely installed your Hackintosh and all your errors are gone, then you can select 0 here, and Clover won't wait for a second and it will directly boot into the Mac OS, which will speed up your process. But if somehow you have a crash and you want to check and you want to go to the Clover bootloader, what you can do is you can press any key on your keyboard while motherboard is booting up and while the Clover bootloader is not loaded. So you press any key and the Clover will stop on the bootloader GUI. Okay, and don't use -1 or fast, because after using these you won't be able to get bootloader Clover in any case, so that's dangerous. That's after that you can click on XMP extreme memory profile detection and you can say yes. So the BIOS will check if the memories are overclocked or not, and they will add the right values. If you click no early progress, it will hide all the lines the Clover bootloader shows before it loads up, and it basically shows a lot of lines after the APFS file introduction. So it is better to use no early progress. Then in boot graphics, it's basically how the Clover bootloader will boot up. For boot graphics to work, you need two other UEFI drivers. These are the EmuVariable and CSM something something. So that's CsmVideoDex.kext and EmuVariableUefi. Both of these are required to be installed in your UEFI system if you want to boot and if you want to apply the boot graphics. But remember, if you use CsmVideoDex.kext, you won't be able to use Intel graphics. So this is a no-go for those who are going to boot with Intel graphics. Don't use this, otherwise you won't get a display. So EMU variable is very important, and it plays a lot of different roles in a lot of other subjects related to Hackintosh, and I have complete videos over that as well. You can check that out. And EMU variable is also very important for iMessages and FaceTime and a lot of Apple authentications. So we'll go back in CPU. If you want to see how to get iMessages working, there's a video in the description as well as on my channel. You can go and get that from there. So we are on our fourth selection, which is CPU. So in here you will add basically the properties of your CPU. These settings can increase or decrease your system performance depending on what you choose. So if you have a system with a base clock of 3.6 gigahertz, you basically add 3600 megahertz, and if your bus speed is like 100, you can basically add 100,000 or 1 lakh, or you can here add 99790, which is given by the developers that it probably increased their stability and performance. I don't know how, I don't know why, but it does. Then this is QPI. It's introduced in SkyLake processors. You can go on internet and check what Intel processor QPIs are. These are latencies, these are type, TDP, thermal power consumption, or whatever this is, saving mode, and then is hardware power enable. So basically this is hardware power controller, and if I go here it will tell a lot of different stuff about this. So hardware control performance states. So it is used to control the CPU boosting states. So if you click this, the Mac OS X will no longer be able to control your hardware, your CPU performance, and this hardware will does it depending on how it interacts with the operating system, and it is not recommended until unless your system is not supported by the Mac OS X itself. And if I do this on my i9-9900K, it probably restrict my CPU to somewhat 3.9 gigahertz, and it don't let it go anyway above to 5 gigahertz or so. So it's not recommended for Intel CPUs basically. Then this is C2, C4 and C6 states. These states are low power states, and it's better you enable them so your system or your CPU can rest better in low states, so it will use less power. Then this is the device section. There are a lot of different things you can do in device section, and all of these things will be explained in the next video. I will also try to explain these four sections again in little detail, and I will try to add everything I messed up right now. And there are all other softwares you can use to make a lot of different stuff on your Mac and on your Hackintoshes. So right now there's softwares I use. I thought it would be neat to tell you about that. Look at this. Here I can measure my internet usage, how much data I use, and my monthly data used, and my monthly remaining data. Then here you can see my Radeon RX Vega 64 and the power it's using right now, its memory, its processor, the frames per second on my system display right now. If I move my mouse, you can see this frames go right to 60 FPS. If I go static, the frames drop quite fast. Then there is temperature, processor of the GPU, not the CPU. Then if I click here, you'll see all the details related to my internet. Here's my IP, basically I have hidden it, and then there is my local IP and all the other softwares I'm using. Then this is my system sensors, my CPU cores, my GPU die, my hard drives, fans, CPU frequency, CPU core voltage, and all the other details. So if I zoom out, there are a lot of different things you can learn about Clover Configurator and about Hackintosh. So there are a lot of different things you can learn about Clover Configurator and about Hackintosh. There are a ton of things you can learn, and there are tons of things I'm gonna explain in my videos. If you really like the video, then give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. If you dislike it, give it a thumbs down and let me know what you disliked it so I can improve in my further videos. If you really want my help, you can contact me on Patreon, and you can also contact me on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube. If you have any question, query, let me know in the comment section below so I can help you out faster and more reliable. If you want my direct support, never forget Patreon is right away. If you think I make good videos, you can do a monthly pledge. It will really help me boost, and I give special features, special files and documents, and special support to all my Patreons if they need help. I also provide my WhatsApp number if you want to contact me, if you want to ask anything. That's all available on the Patreon. Just subscribe to that. And thanks again. Thanks for watching. Hope you liked it. Hope you enjoyed it. And until the very next video, please take care. Allah Hafiz.